We've heard all the awful stories of women getting roofied. I'm curious though, if any men have had a roofie experience, what happened? Once, it was at a pub. Pretty sure they were going to rob me. I was lucky, had a mate there who looked after me and took me home. It was a weird experience though. Only got halfway through my drink before I started feeling it. Less than 10 minutes later, and I couldn't hold up my head or speak properly. Really don't wanna think about what would have happened if my mate wasn't there. Whatever they used, I don't think it wasn't a roofie, since I could remember everything. But it must have been some kind of sedative. Sounds like GHB to me. Dangerous stuff, especially mixed with booze. Not me, but a close friend was doing a study abroad with a mixed group of guys and girls, about 9 or so people in total. While visiting Ireland at a pub, he ordered 5 beers for his friends. In hindsight, the person that roofied his drinks must have thought he was buying drinks for the ladies, when in reality the drinks were for all the boys. That night was a crazy one, and they tell this story while laughing through it. One man left the bar and took off running and woke up the next day in a farm field. Another guy was found a few towns over after taking a bus home. The other 2 were luckily taken care of by the girls of the group and made it home safely. Not sure if I do this story justice, but it was a wild experience for those involved. That's a lot. Dude woke up in a field. UK's most prolific rapist exclusively roofied men and recorded himself with them. A lot of the victims didn't realize they'd been attacked until the police came around. https://n/m wikipedia.org/wiki/reinhard_siniger. At least 48 people. JFC, his first victim to report it, was initially arrested after beating him up during the rape. Drugged, robbed, and assaulted at a party. Hell. Even tried telling folks, and to this day people think I just overindulged. Saying things like, "You're crazy, why would anyone ever do that to you of all people?" Or, "I think you were dreaming." 2 beers won't put down a big guy without help. 2 beers won't make me lose my wallet and keys. 2 beers wouldn't make me question how I ended up with a condom on and my pants around my ankles. I see false masculinity being cited as a reason for not saying anything. Truth is, no one believes it could happen to men. One time I was traveling on my own. Ended up at a club for a party with a group of people I met there. Met more people at a party, and one of them, a guy also, spiked me with what I think was GHB. Next thing I remember, I was following him somewhere. It was dawning, or there was some light out, and something on my mind was saying no, danger, but I kept following him, and he was pulling me through the sleeve of my hoodie. It was a little bit out of body, honestly. I repeated a few times to myself that I would go, and eventually told him. He insisted for me to follow him. Pulled me. I got aggressive and told him I was going back to my hostel, and that was it. Took me a while to figure out where I was. 40 minutes walk to the hostel, needed to clear my head, and even then still kinda blurry. The only way to describe it to you is, do you know when you black out during a night out? If you say yes, then it was like that. But I blacked out and woke up during the same night without touching a bed. Edit. A few years prior to that, I had been spiked from sipping a friend's drinking, and I had read the effects of GHB, so I assumed that in both cases they were the same. The first, since I only sipped, I felt like the beginning of ketamine or a strong tranquilizer, but I could handle it. Toss the drink, never found out who did it. I was getting drinks with my girlfriend and another couple. The girls wanted to go to a different bar, so they gave me their drinks to finish. I remember walking down the street, and then I woke up 2 days later. Apparently I didn't act all that different, but they could tell I was pretty fucked up. I don't remember anything, except leaving the first bar after I went into work and told a friend. And then my boss made fun of me when I went to the doctor to get a blood draw so I wouldn't get fired over a random urinalysis result. I just got laughed at again. I just kept getting told that no one would roofie me. I tried explaining the situation, but no one cared. 2 days later seems to be a common time frame. How do you feeling about it now? A good friend of mine. He was at a house party and someone slipped something in his drink. He says he doesn't remember anything until about 12 hours later, and that he thinks someone raped him. He wouldn't report it or anything because he would have to tell people what happened. I hope he's doing well. That sounds very traumatic. Knew a guy who believed he got roofied at a bar by another guy in order to get him out of contention for a woman they were both interested in. Said he had one drink and apparently friends found him passed out on the men's room floor and had to carry him out. Craziest story though, my daughter has 2 guy friends who claim they were roofied at some girl's house, and that girl and one of her friends essentially raped them. One of them vaguely remembers some of the events, the other remembers nothing, but both say the physical evidence was pretty clear on what happened. Been roofied twice, once at a bar, another time at a concert. The one at the bar, some woman tried to grope and kiss me, but my friends could spot that something was wrong and took me home. The time of the concert, I did wake up the next day in a random apartment building pretty much in another city with a teacup on my crotch. It's scary when you have zero recollection of anything happening. I got roofied by 2 girls in college. They brought me back to one of the girls' apartment and tried to do things to me. They were friends of mine at the time. I woke up the next day not knowing what happened, but knew I hadn't drank enough to black out. One of the girls brought me a coffee in the morning. I was roofied and sexually assaulted by a college girl. This was back when I was in college. The heyday of Facebook's initial release in 2005/6. I went to a party on another campus and was asked what I'd like to drink by a group of girls. They huddled around the fridge for a bit, and I didn't really think anything of it. I kid you not. Halfway through this drink, first of the night, I was blacked out. My friends went on the hunt for me when I disappeared, and they were ready to leave. They found me passed out in the laundry closet with this sober, albeit heavier set, girl on top of me. I had a girlfriend at the time and absolutely no recollection of how I got there. Needless to say, my friends managed to get me out of there as soon as possible. I had no idea who this woman was, but they said she was on those huddled near the fridge. This happens to guys, but it doesn't go reported because of Bull's false masculinity ideals. Needless to say, I don't drink anymore. I was accidentally roofied at a party by my girlfriend's male friend once. He made her a drink. I didn't like the vibe he was putting out, so I swapped drinks with her. About halfway through I'm blackout toasted and don't remember the rest of the night. Apparently my girlfriend put me to bed in her bed and shortly after that her friend left. I confronted him about it and he denied it. I told her about it and she told me she knew he did it to other people but would never do it to her. I told her she shouldn't be friends with people who drug people against their will, and she disagreed, so we split. Personally, I've never had my drink spiked, but I've been with a friend when it happened to him. He was just acting incredibly drunk at first. In the taxi on the way home, he just got out. The light changed green and the taxi driver said he'd go, but pull up close by so we could go get him. We couldn't spot him, and I didn't hear from him until the next day. He'd passed out on the street and had managed to call a friend before his phone died. IDKY he hadn't rung me, but he got picked up and was fine, but he says he doesn't remember anything from that night basically. The waiter at the South Beach restaurant I was at roofied me thinking it was my date's drink. I woke up an hour later in the ambulance and they arrested him. I was on a customer security course recently. Trainer mentioned that sometimes a date rapist will spot a couple, like the look of the girlfriend, and drug the boyfriend to get him out the way. I got roofied by a guy who was obviously trying to target my girlfriend and I didn't catch on. I completely blacked out at her NFL game and woke up in our hotel with no clue how I got there. I spent about 12 hours dry heaving in the toilet afterwards. All in all, it sucked, but my girlfriend wasn't assaulted, so I'll take that blackout over that any time. I voluntarily took a tablet I was told was something else. Turns out it was a roofie. I don't think anything bad happened to me as I had friends looking out for me, but I did wake up 2 days later in a different city with no memories of what had happened. My mates said I was sleeping with my eyes wide open. This is terrifying. Did they fill you in on what happened? Guy tried to roofie me in a club once. I caught him out of the corner of my eye and told the bartender I needed a new drink, and the reason. She got the bouncers and they took care of the issue.